Hi, I'm Kevin. Steve's behind the camera. Today on the Revue, in the Revue room, as I like to call it here at Zapots, we have local celebrity.
Oh.
Tom Stewart, Slo Tom, also known as Slo Tom, also known as the guy who used to have really long dreadlocks when he was in a band called Furnace Face many years ago. Tom, welcome back to the Revue.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. This is great. Thanks.
Very happy to have you here and very appreciative because the first time you came by, we did a little demo session with Tom a few months ago, and we had audio problems whenever. So Tom very graciously come back.
My specialty is the demo. You know?
So, but you have been a fixture certainly in the Ottawa, Canadian music scene, but specifically the Ottawa scene for many years. You Black to Fluid Waffle, Furnace Face for a decade, Manpower, and Slo Tom doing your own kind of solo country stuff. That's a lot of stuff and a lot of time. What kind of fuels you to keep doing this stuff?
That's a good question. What fuels me to do it? I don't know. I guess it's one of those things that probably like someone who paints or somebody who writes poetry or whatever. Yeah. I don't think you ever really think about that. It's just sort of what you do, and it sort of comes second nature. It becomes sort of part of your whole persona and who you are. You start writing silly angst-written poetry when you're in grade 9 or grade 10 or whatever. And, the next thing you know, you play a guitar, and the next thing you know, you're playing in a band, and the next thing you know, all these years pass, and, even if I had no outlet, say I had no outlet, I didn't have a band, I didn't have a club to play at or anything, if I was living in Tuktoyaktuk or whatever, I would still do that stuff. It's just so much what I do. I'm always thinking of some, line for a song or some idea for whatever. I feel very fortunate that I have this amazing band. I almost feel like lightning has struck multiple times in my life. When I was lucky that it struck once with Furnace Face, I was the guy that happened to get in the right band with the right guys at the right time, and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to do that. Because that has, sort of facilitated my ability to do this thing that I do, and I've got this amazing band together now with the Handsome Devils, and it's so much fun. So it comes second nature to me. I always kind of half jokingly say, some guys work on their golf score, some guys play in the beer league hockey thing or whatever. My thing is writing songs, and it's just sort of I think I'd go insane if I didn't, So
makes sense. Everyone needs an outlet, right? Regardless of whether it's sports, songs, or whatever you need to. Do
the disadvantage is that playing in a band and doing music takes up a huge amount of time, and you end up thinking about music and thinking about songwriting and thinking about playing in a band for hours and hours and hours during the day when you really should be doing your job or paying attention to your wife or whatever. So it becomes this sort of all-encompassing thing. I always say it's very, very demanding mistress to play in a band, and to sort of do the stuff you want to do. But it's just sort of who I am. It's just what I do, and so I never look at it sort of as a chore or I enjoy everything about it.
You clearly get lots out of it, and that too. You go across all these different genres. And I'm a particular fan of Manpower because I like loud stuff.
Wow,
but so you're kind of doing the metal thing, but you're also doing kind of the really old style country stuff with the Handsome Devils too. Yeah. So how do you balance all these things, and how do you manage to control which direction?
I sort of have two. You're right. I sort of have two sides of balance of these things. I've always liked, quite heavy music. I really got into punk rock when I was in high school, and that was the thing that really spoke to me and really kind of changed my whole life and everything. Not to be too cliched, but it honestly it did. It was a real transformative moment in my life when I was like, oh, I finally found my thing. And so I like heavy music. I like aggressive music. But I also, I like there to be an element of humor in it. And the thing I really liked about Furnace Face was it had what I like, which is I like a certain amount of heaviness and energetic, but I like sort of, not always, but I like a certain amount of humorous lyrics and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I thought when Furnace Face, when we did that, when we hit that right, where we took like an important social, when we made a social comment, but with a humorous way, with sort of heavy music, I thought that's when we were our best, you know. And but at the same time, you know, I've always liked country music. Ever since I was a little kid, I've really always liked country music, even quite bad country music. I like, you know, and I just like it, you know. I like the lyrics, and I like the whole songwriting process of that, and I like the idea of taking, you know, I think the genius of taking, you know, these three chords, you know, A, D, and G, and making that into something that somebody says, oh, that's really interesting, you know, like that is far more inventive and creative. You know, take those three chords that a million people have done a zillion times, and to make an interesting song, wow, that's way more impressive than a jazz person or whatever. You know, I have no interest in jazz music or that kind of stuff. I really want music to be simple, and that's why I think I like punk rock too, because, you know, it's taking, you know, three chords and making it into something that is actually new and interesting. And I like lyrically driven music. You know, I have no interest in blues or classical or jazz, because it's not lyrically driven. That's performance driven music, and that's not my thing at all, you know. But I forget where I was going with this.
Quite all right.
But I love country music, and you know, one of my very, very first bands back when I first started playing was a country band called the Slurpees, and I played in that band, and I wrote a bunch of songs for that band, and there's songs that I still play, you know, 30 years later. I still play those songs. I really, really like them, you know. For example, the song Mountain Man, I think you've heard before, or Liquor's My Lover. I wrote those songs for my first country band, you know, years ago. And so I like that genre, you know.
So the first record, I'm going to reach over here.
Okay.
This was what, 99?
It was, 99, 2000. Yeah.
99 right there. And so this was a live record.
Yeah, live at the Downstairs Club. I think it was called the Hi-Fi at the time.
I'm going to pull this one.
And
I remember the Hi-Fi.
That was a great band. It was a different band than I have now. It was Dave Dudley from Furnace Face on drums, Jim Bryson on guitar, who I'm sure everyone knows.
Everybody knows Jim,
Jeff Taylor, who plays with the Black Boot Trio, a longtime Ottawa guy. He played bass. And a friend of mine, Graham Collins, who lives in Toronto now, played piano. And they were the Horseshit Heroes. And we recorded that record live, and I'm really proud of that record, and I'm really happy with it. But the thing I like best is you can hear my friends like heckling me and booing and stuff. So it has a very live feeling. However, the new band that I have now, I would say, captures what I've been trying to do much better than, you know, I almost had it with them, and I'm really happy with this record. I think it's really good, and those guys are amazing players, but it wasn't quite what I was trying to do. Not that it wasn't good, it just wasn't quite what I was trying to do. And with this new band, Matt Ouimet playing guitar and lap steel, Steve Martin playing bass, and John Knoll playing drums, they understand exactly what I'm trying to do, and it really, you know, it's finally what I hear in here is there. So super fun, you know.
Well, let's before I ask you about the other couple of records, let's hear a track from Slo Tom. What would you like to play for us first?
Okay, well, why don't we play? Why don't we just start off with a song from this record, the title track, "Must Have Been a Pretty Good Night," which is about one of those nights that gets super out of control, and you know, the house burns down and your parents kill you. I try to write them relatable, you know, folks. I try to make them identifiable, and you know, hopefully you see a bit of yourself in them.
All right.
Well, my head is pounding and I can't find my shoes. It must have been a pretty good night. Well, the front door is busted and my teeth are all loose. It must have been a pretty good night. Well, the front lawn is littered with bottles and cans. The cops keep on telling me to put on some pants. Yeah, my car's on fire and my burn
solo.
Well, my girlfriend is missing. They're dragging the lake. Somebody told me they recovered her name. Yeah, my hair